Welcome back to the Star Wars News Net YouTube channel, podcast network, whatever we want to call it. I am joined by my good friend Miguel on this Labor Day Monday here, and it's nice to have the day off and relax. Of course, we're recording this on Tuesday nights, 9:15 Eastern Time here in the US. So hopefully I'm enjoying myself when it's actually Labor Day, because right now I'm exhausted and looking forward to the long weekend, which I guess is not great considering it's only Tuesday and there's 3 days still ahead, but we're going to power through, because the best part, Miguel, about a 3-day weekend is the 4-day work week that follows the 3-day weekend. Like, to me, that's the best part. Like, I love the 3 days, but when I get to school on a Tuesday and I know that Friday's just 3 days away after that, I mean, there is just a cheerfulness in the air when I'm like, it's a 4-day week. Like, let's do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, we do long weekends way different than you, because you only get Mondays off. We get, like, if the holiday falls on a Wednesday, we get the Wednesday off. So sometimes we get like Tuesday off, and then like people don't go to work on Monday, so it's like a 4-day weekend. Yeah.
See, I would love to adopt that. Like, let's adopt that over here. That would be wonderful. So we were planning on doing a little Star Wars Outlaws talk. We were gonna have Jay on. The three of us were going to crank this out, but some scheduling conflicts came up, and it was actually your idea to do what we're doing tonight, which I think is really fun. Just a little bit of something like almost like a breath of fresh air, maybe, for Star Wars. It's nothing like super hard hitting. We're just gonna have some fun, because there was the news that Keanu Reeves was very close to being a star in The Acolyte, and that the door is open apparently for him with Lucasfilm to be in a Star Wars project at some point. So the two of us, we came up with 3 roles that we feel like would be great for Keanu Reeves, that we would love to see him in. Now, disclaimer to everyone that is listening, that is thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, Keanu Reeves must be Revan from the Old Republic, or, something along those lines. I think Miguel and I, we've seen that so much online, and people have been fan casting that for a long time. And we're not saying that's not a great idea, but we're coming up with 3 different ideas just for the sake of, that's been out there for so long. And I think that's a good idea. Are you ready to talk about the greatness that is Keanu Reeves for a minute?
I very much am, yeah.
Are you a Keanu fan?
I guess I'm not as big a fan as most people, because like he's like up there for many people. But yeah, I enjoy his stick. Like, I can get behind Keanu starring.
Are
in a
you more of
movie.
a John Wick or a Matrix like person?
That's a good question. I enjoyed the first Matrix. I don't really love the next two. I do like John Wick, even though I am not a fan of gun movies or shootings in general, like in movies, which kind of like, I like John Wick because of how he's able to sometimes flip the script on that. So yeah, I will go with something in the middle, like both of them.
The first Matrix movie is one of my like all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Carrie Ann Moss is awesome. Lawrence Fishburne, like, that movie is fantastic. The thing with the second, I love the second one. The ending is whatever, but the reason I think it doesn't sit so well with me is it is so closely tied with part 3. Like, you cannot have it without going into part 3 immediately after, and part 3 to me is kind of such a mess that it gives this weird taste in my mouth watching part 2 versus part 1. I can just rewatch that one. You can just have its own story. It's like so rewatchable. We can talk. We can do a Matrix podcast maybe at some point if Keanu gets cast in a Star Wars role. We will just do a full deep dive on the filmography, like the film history of Keanu Reeves. That way we can just talk about everything he's ever done and somehow tie it into Star Wars.
I guess that's a good idea to do on Sigourney Weaver one day as well. because she was
I
cast.
just saw Alien Romulus, and
Oh, really?
it scared the hell out of me. It really
Which
did.
Sigourney is not in, by the way.
Yes, she's not in,
Just to
but
be clear.
yes. But you think of Alien, like you think
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Sigourney. So, oh, that movie's fun though. Anyway, have you seen that? Have you seen that yet?
I have. Yeah.
Did you like it?
Uh, yeah, I'm not too big on horror, but yeah, I did like the movie. Like overall,
Okay.
like I thought it was like very simplistic and very like what you see was what you get. But
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
other than that, it was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. So the first role for Keanu Reeves in Star Wars that this is the one that I have been saying for a while. I put on my socials some. I've talked in the Discord channel about this. I want Dawn of the Jedi, James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, Keanu Reeves to be the first Jedi. Like he is the one. Maybe he constructs Huyang and writes. Maybe he's the first one that writes the ancient Jedi text that we see in The Last Jedi. And I can already envision it now. He's climbing some mountaintop to meditate on top, and he feels something within him, and you just get that classic Keanu going, "Huh, hmm, what might that be?" And then you just kind of has this epiphany and discovers the Force. Miguel, how do you feel about Keanu Reeves, the first Jedi?
So I like the idea overall, but here's where I push back.
Okay.
I don't see him as the lead in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to be the first Jedi, like the official first Jedi, the James Mangold's movie would not be centered around him. So
Mm-hmm.
like maybe he is like discovered like someone else has discovered something out of the Force, and maybe they go to him because of like there's some rumblings that he was
Mm-hmm.
first to find something about that or whatever. But I don't love the idea of Keanu on the poster as like the big central figure of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I like the symbolism of him being the first Jedi.
The thing I love about Keanu being the first Jedi is, the Jedi don't have to be boring all the time. Like we know they don't have to,
Yeah,
but so much of the Jedi dogma and everything can be kind of boring, just for like to watch. But I feel like no one does boring better than Keanu. Like that's kind of
yeah.
sometimes his shtick of like he doesn't have to talk much, even just him giving a weird look or just saying, yeah, or just like, random things like that. That's almost like perfect for him to have this quieter, more subtle role as, more stoic Jedi, maybe.
I mean, that's basically how I feel about the John Wick movies, right? Because
Mhm.
I find shootings in movies like very boring. Like there's not like any staging in the action that can be interesting, like from shot reverse shot of people
Mhm.
pointing guns at each other. But he makes it fun. So
Mhm.
I guess I can agree with that on that point. Like, yeah, he makes boring interesting.
It would be really fun to watch him construct like the first lightsaber,
Yeah,
or even like if he's creating Huyang and watching Keanu Reeves just interact with a droid. I think would be really just that would just be kind of funny to watch. Also, we have Huyang, and for those who've been watching Ahsoka or are familiar with Clone Wars, to have this droid that's been around since the dawn of the Jedi for thousands and thousands of years with all of this knowledge. It almost makes me laugh though to think that every time Huyang is referencing Jedi norms or Jedi procedures, it all goes back to Keanu Reeves. Just thinking like if that is actually the one who started that, just would feel hilarious to me, but in like an endearing way, not oh my
yeah, yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
like this is getting ridiculous Star Wars. No, it's actually it just feels kind of perfect.
I mean, I should also say that I don't think Keanu is like the best actor. Like he's fun to watch, but
Mhm.
like I don't see
I
him
agree.
like winning any Oscars anytime soon. So him leading a Star Wars movie, like I guess that's like that should require more of him than what the
Mhm.
John Wick movies do. Like
Right. And
that's why
what
I don't
about
quite see him as the lead yet. Like
mhm.
I see him like as a figure that characters go to for knowledge.
Okay. I can also see that now. The main character, they're climbing up that mountain that I mentioned before. And
Yeah,
when they get to the top, there's just a figure cross leg levitating in the air with their,
absolutely.
hands outstretched, and it's Keanu Reeves just slowly turns. And actually, in The Acolyte, when Torben had like the force field, like
Yeah.
literal force field around him, like I would love if what if Keanu is like the guy shows up to ask him for help, and Keanu is, has that force field around. He's like knocking on the door, like, Mr. Reeves, sir, what is the force? And there's just nothing that he can do to get in contact with him. Like I would love that. I think that would actually be a blend of Star Wars humor, and but bringing everyone in on that, because I think there is a level of Star Wars humor that has been lost on people
Yeah.
nowadays. I think when Star Wars, like, they kind of forget that a lot of Star Wars can be goofy and offbeat and funny, and maybe because Keanu has that track record of just being a little bit offbeat, and some of it's kind of funny, but you're perfectly fine with it. That might actually help Star Wars recapture some of that.
Yeah, I think that there's also like they haven't been able to find that perfect balance.
Hmm.
Again, like I think Faber sometimes moves into the too goofy, and other times they move into like the very serious.
Hmm.
So like the Acolyte would fall under the like more serious stuff, and then like Mando season 3, for example, would be like way too goofy for Star Wars. I think.
Right. Like
That
specifically maybe a Jack Black and
yeah,
Lizzo episode.
yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that episode and not even about them, like, but like a droid bar I didn't love, and like there was stuff.
Mhm.
The fourth episode with like the whole dragon that was pointless. I also found like way too unnecessary and just Saturday morning cartoon. But yeah,
Yeah.
so let me ask you this. This is off topic of from Keanu, but do you think James Mangold should include Hugh Young or not? Or do you think like he should have his movie be completely independent of anything that has come before in Star Wars, other than like a
Mhm.
lightsaber?
Mhm. I think that I don't think Huyang needs to be in the movie, but you know, Huyang is referenced like in the timelines book as being forged at around this. It's like in the timelines book. I
Yeah,
think it says he's forged at the same time as like the dawn of the Jedi. So even if Huyang isn't like in the movie, having even something where it's like as they're creating, the lightsabers, and they're trying to figure out how to contain this knowledge of things, maybe you just see like parts of Hu Yang's like head like in the background, like he's being constructed, or maybe he's turned on and you see him in the background walking, or maybe it's just a quick like he says a line. It doesn't have to be like, I don't want it to be like Ahsoka, where he's like the buddy to Ahsoka and Sabine, like going around, in the new galaxy. I don't think he needs to be that prevalent, but just a little nod. I don't think there's anything it can be tasteful, it can be quick, just for, fans that are familiar with that. They're gonna be excited about that and see that. But it doesn't take away from the movie. Like if you don't know who that droid is, you're not going to feel lost and confused when everyone's like, "Oh, look who that is." And I think that's the best way to go
yeah,
about it.
that's fair. That's
Um,
fair.
I'm not going to be walking out of that movie, telling my friend, "See, that movie was dumb. It was the worst. How do you not include Hu Yang, the first Jedi droid that was ever constructed? Like we're breaking the lore of Star Wars." No, I'm not going to be one of those people.
I guess in my head, I've always thought like, of the movie like it would end on the moment that Hugh Young would enter the picture.
Hmm.
Like this is actually about people discovering the Force
Hmm.
and maybe building the first lightsaber, and after that, that's when Hugh Young enters the picture. But the movie doesn't tell that story. Maybe the sequel or whatever. But like, I think the timeless reference was like it was literally like the 25,000 years before
Hmm.
Skywalkers and whatever.
Hmm.
But that's like a rounding error issue where
Right.
you like
Hmm.
maybe 10 years after the events of the movie,
Hmm.
Hugh Young pops up like.
Hmm. No,
Uh,
I would love that. That would be fantastic. I want it to be kind of. I think they described it as like this, like Ten Commandments, like
yeah,
type story, and that to me sounds really interesting. Like this is the movie that it's the Ray movie, and then this one that I am really excited about of the four movies that we have concrete details about right now.
yeah. I'm
But
growing a bit skeptical about James Mangold, given that apparently A Complete Unknown is not very good. But let's see.
it's I'm willing to test the water. I'm
I
ready.
mean, I
I'm ready
didn't
to
love
do it.
Indy 5, so I guess that's also on me. So
No, that's not on you. Indy 5. No, I loved Indy 5 just because they could literally put Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford in anything and I would, hear that theme and I would find a way to love it. Just like,
yeah,
you put Star Wars in anything. I'm going to find a way to love parts of that. So that's kind of how I went with Indy 5. So the second role
right.
that we would love to see Keanu Reeves in, and this one I think is really exciting. We don't really have a specific way to characterize this because we don't have many details right now of this movie. But we are thinking Ray movie, Keanu Reeves as a dark side like villain in the Ray movie. And the way I envision this, tell me what you think, was that he is leading some sort of new era dark side cult. That's not the Sith because we're moving beyond the Sith, but we have come up with some sort of new dark side threat that Keanu is maybe the leader of, or at least is a powerful player, and he represents like a villain to Ray. What do you think about Keanu Ray movie villain? We actually texted each other that idea at
Yeah,
like the exact same time, so
yeah.
clearly there is a connection here.
I mean, I guess it's also like an easy answer because you think of the Darth Revan room or fan casting, and you think, okay, he would actually play a good villain. So, which movie or which story is now in need of a
Hmm.
villain? And you think of Ray, and it's like the dots connect, right? But yeah, I think I said Sith, but I did mean what you were saying now, which
Hmm.
is. Um, a new you're actually creating a new, let's say, much like you have a new Jedi order, you have a new Sith order where you like
Hmm.
uh, I was thinking like maybe you go back to the origins of the Sith, which we haven't really explored at all, and
Hmm.
maybe what we know as the Sith is actually completely different from what it was supposed to be at the beginning. So maybe Keanu is like the first person in that, like to actually follow the original Sith findings of the Force. Like, what
Hmm.
did that mean? Like, maybe you can even go back to like the stranger in the Acolyte. Like, that was a bit different from what we learned about
Hmm.
Darth Plagueis in the prequels. Like, what were the different
Hmm.
incarnations that the Sith Lord can actually
Hmm.
take and all that. Like I find the idea of Keanu actually being in the inception of new cult, whether it's the Jedi in
Hmm.
the Dawn of the Jedi or no the Sith
Hmm.
here, like pretty compelling. And you actually put a
Hmm.
red lightsaber in his hand, and you're off to the races.
Hmm. And it would be interesting too if he took maybe what he, as a villain thinks is the best of the Darth Bane rule of two Sith that we see
Right.
in that line, or and then maybe like Sith Empire or even pre-Sith Empire, teachings and I guess lore that is like you said largely unexplored outside of some video games and some Legends novels. And I think it'd be cool if he had his own new spin on it and we see how that ideology is going to obviously directly conflict with Ray. But I think the more interesting aspect of that would be what what are they doing that makes them so threatening at the time, because like how large is this order, or is it Keanu kind of on his own going and trying to recruit various people to slowly build this, because we're going, what is it, 15 years in the
Yeah.
future? So what, how long has Keanu's like cult, or how long has his group been around? Like, was Palpatine, would he have even been aware of Keanu's group, or is this something that has risen afterwards that discovered afterwards. Like, how new is this? So I think that that's kind of like the main problem in general this movie is going to have to play is how you want this to be an important enough villain that justifies a movie taking place in this time, but you also, I think, don't want it to be another galactic altering event in the first get-go. Like, let's maybe build into this new era, and maybe Keanu is the perfect person to play that like middle ground role.
Right, but so what if he was aware of Palpatine and his plan, but Palpatine was not aware of him, so that he's actually angry at Palpatine and at the Empire because of the way they interpreted the Sith lore,
Mm-hmm.
and was either waiting for him to fail or wishing for him to fail so that he could actually step in
Mm-hmm.
and do it right. So, and yeah, this does not and must not be a galactic threat. This
Mm-hmm.
should be something like, oh, so Ray realizes that much like we are building a new Jedi
Mm-hmm.
Order, there's something else going on here that feels small for now, but could actually grow
Mm-hmm.
into something that maybe not necessarily takes over the galaxy in like a fascist way, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's potentially dangerous for at least the corruption of the minds, like
Mm-hmm.
psychologically speaking, not even like a literal
Mm-hmm.
a literal corruption, but
Mm-hmm.
like maybe changing some of the ways they think about certain stuff. Like I don't know, this is like coming off the top of my head right now, and it isn't fully conceptualized, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe something. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's interesting of when you are 15 years removed from basically chaos, because we've seen from the New Republic timeline that the New Republic was like a sham of a government. Like, it
Yeah.
was horrendous, and we've seen that. And it's completely obliterated. So you've gone through one transformational time of the Empire turning into the New Republic to now the Republic being gone, the First Order have a very short and temporary stranglehold of the galaxy, and then Palpatine poses this massive galactic threat and is wiped out. And now we have 15 years of what the heck do we do? Because we haven't had stability in basically 60, 70 years in the galaxy. There's been no sort of stabilizing force. And so I think it's perfect whenever there's that much chaos. It's perfect for some sort of like splinter group and smaller group to come in and provide, answers. Maybe someone to be angry at, someone to blame for the problems. And you start on, one planet with one group of people, and slowly that starts, spreading. And I think we could see something like that maybe with this movie is Ray can see that, okay, there's something that's spreading here. And I would love the idea of Keanu maybe presenting himself almost like similarly to like a Count Dooku of on the outside, he's like this political idealist, maybe, or he's simply trying to do good by people on the outside, and no one takes him that seriously. They're like, okay, maybe that ideology is a little extreme, but it's nothing that like we can't like control. But after Ray maybe takes a deeper look into this, she's a little more concerned, and then she discovers that there's a true dark side threat behind this, that the intentions and the grand plan is much larger than it seems. And so she says we have to take more direct action to stop this. And I could see how that could impact like some players at that time that are involved in the political scale of everything. You could bring in easily some characters that are more on the ground forces of these planets. And then, Rey herself could have pupils. This is obviously a lot of projecting. Could have pupils that, because the Jedi Order itself is so new at this time, I could easily see a situation where Ray could have pupils that turn over to Keanu's side, and the story instantly gets flipped on its head, because whoever Ray's pupils are, she's now not only fighting whoever this new villain is in Keanu Reeves, but now she's having to be confronted with the fact that she's had someone turn on her. And we haven't seen Ray deal with that before in Star Wars, because she in Last Jedi She goes because she thinks that Ben Solo is going to turn and help her, and she realizes that Ben Kylo was doing that for himself. But ultimately, he turns around. Finn never wavers by her side. Obviously, Poe comes along later, never wavers. But we've never seen Rey in that mentorship role and losing someone that she's that close to in turn. So I think that could be like a really interesting dynamic to propel her character forward, but also give us a good reason for why the Jedi Order is really needed at this time of instability for the government. Because it seems like they're going to be trying to push the story again, which I felt like we answered in the Last Jedi and everything. Is that are the Jedi necessary in this government, or should they exist? And if they're going to do that, we need to do it in a fresh, a different way. And this could be the path.
Right. So I think one of the big questions that this movie has to answer, and I think you were getting to this, is that what is the state of the galaxy politically, right? So um, there's been like so much turmoil in the last 70 years, where with so many regimes. So I was thinking, maybe because of a few things that you said, that so what if in these 15 years they actually decided that it was best not to have a centralized government and that each
Mm-hmm.
planet governs its own people. Like
Mm-hmm.
uh, we don't have much to do with one another, because once we start to like put together
Mm-hmm.
some senate or whatever, like this gets out of hand.
Right.
And in that moment, like two factions rise that try to unite the different governments 15 years
Mm-hmm.
later, when they start to realize that this isn't working exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
one is Rey with her new Jedi Order, where she tries to bring back the old ways of having some warriors defend the
Mm-hmm.
galactic threats, like not even like a big threat, but like galaxy wide
Mm-hmm.
threats. And then Keanu, who also who is leading like a more I wouldn't even say sinister, but like more radical, let's say, uh, way of thinking, and he starts to convince some people, not even like in a empire kind of
Right.
regime, but like something a bit more extreme, where he also wants to unite the people, and Bray realizes that yeah, this is not the actual way to
Mhm.
do it, and we should do this, stop to this. And I think
I love
this
that.
was a mix of what you said and a few things that came up to me.
Well, and I would love the
Eh,
idea of Rey having to balance being this
right.
leader of her own pupils, but also feeling the stress of being at this point in time, maybe the single individual in the known galaxy that we know about. And I would imagine that because she's such a well known figure, she's getting called upon to help with all of these problems. So there could be strain with the pupils she's trying to teach while she's balancing being the leader of the new Jedi Order while also having to be a known leader to the galaxy. And if there's a lack of maybe that centralized government or a centralized movement, she's being pulled in all these different directions, which I think makes sense that someone like Keanu in this cult could start to gain traction until it's big enough that forces their attention that direction.
Yeah, I think we both like the idea, and maybe we shouldn't go too deep into it, because then they're gonna do a different thing, and we're gonna be way too upset.
Oh yeah, well that's Last Jedi all over again for a lot of people. I will say that I really do hope that with Ray specifically in that movie that they do go the opposite approach of kind of what they did with Luke in the sequel era. Not necessarily the movies, but if people that have followed like the books a little bit and some of those stories and the comics, and then of course obviously the sequels, Luke kind of secluded himself from the New Republic formation. Leia was
Yeah,
pretty much the main Skywalker in charge, and Luke was like, "I'm gonna just do my own thing." He doesn't really intervene, talk with anyone. He doesn't really ever make himself known. I hope that maybe Rey would be that a little bit more of a visible figure to the galaxy, And that could even open up interesting doors for Keanu's character, this dark side character, to try to like tarnish her legacy a little bit as a hero and as someone to be respected and revered, which could also help him, gain his traction. Like, what are the Jedi doing for you? What have the Jedi done for you in the last 15 years? Like, she cares more about these people than you. And then that, some build up that anti almost Jedi resentment, because we've seen a lot of in Star Wars in the sequels was all about we need the return. We need the Jedi to come back. We need them to come back. And the originals, it's all about we want the Jedi to come back. And it's not until the very end of the prequels that we see maybe anti-Jedi sentiment, but we don't even see that in those movies. It's more of in like the animated shows that we even get that. So it
Right.
might be like an interesting point on like on the screen. Should we get into the third one?
Yeah, that's it.
So the third one, this was an interesting idea, and I think this is just classic Keanu. And this was yours. You said, "What if we get like another Disney Plus series at maybe the tail end of the Old Republic, where Keanu kind of comes up with some of these main kung fu force techniques, some of that we saw maybe someone like Master Soul or Master and Dara implementing in the Acolyte. We've seen, comics and books of Jedi, fighting with just the Force or fighting, without using their lightsaber. And one of Keanu was maybe the architect of several of these forms. And the show is, introduces him into the show, not maybe not as like the lead or the
No.
person driving the show, but he's like the martial arts guru of the show, that the teacher of the ways of the martial arts. And I really like that idea. Can you maybe what's your overarching vision for that?
Right. So this is like again like pretty much breaking the fourth wall and acknowledging that he is as an actor like the the central figure of this kung fu on American movies at least.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take that idea and also think that the Acolyte just introduced a new fighting style that pretty much mirrors what Keanu does in The Matrix
Mm-hmm.
and these kind of movies, like it would make perfect sense if we are going like the original Jedi or like the original Sith of a new cult to also be like, what if he is the original creator of this new forceful style that
Mm-hmm.
we saw in the Acolyte? But what if we went a few 100 years before that and saw like this creation? Because we don't much see that style anymore. Like after the Acolyte, we haven't seen it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this is also like selfishly, I would love this style to come back at some point, because whatever you think of the story of the Acolyte, I thought the
Mm-hmm.
fights were just outstanding. So whoever coordinated those and shot it like should come back
Mm-hmm.
and just give us more. I thought like the finale was just
Mm-hmm.
spectacular in fighting
Oh,
style. So
absolutely.
yeah, I
And
would
Soul
just
does the
love.
whole like one of these were here, and then he deflects the sabers, and then does the whole force. I don't even know what they call it, like the force reverb
Right.
out. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, so Keanu was supposed to be Master Soul at some point. Like, I don't even know. Like, I guess we should acknowledge as well. Like, Leslie Helen has said that she did think of Lee Jung Jae as Master Soul
Mhm.
pretty early on. So maybe Keanu was like the first name on the list, or maybe he was the second. That they probably approached him. They never
Mhm.
offered him the role, but he was in
Mhm.
contention for that role. So there is at least one alternate universe in which
Mhm.
Keanu was going to play that character, and you actually can see that in the finale,
Mhm.
right? So you can see
Mhm.
in those fights Keanu there, and what if we actually got that in another Disney Plus series? So the downside of this is also that this idea of having another series set so far apart and so far back from the Skywalker saga just didn't work the last time. So I
Mhm.
guess we will probably be taking a break from these
Mhm.
kinds of uh,
Well,
rule
let me
breaking
tell you. Let me
series.
tell you on this though.
Yeah,
Years removed. This is in 5 years. 5 years from now, this show comes out.
yeah,
Fresh breath of air, breath of fresh air. It's brand new. Keanu Reeves is there. That's someone that, for in America, every single person knows Keanu and has wanted Keanu in Star Wars for, 20 years now or whatever. However long it's been that they've been photoshopping him in as Darth Revan. People have been wanting Keanu in. People, I would say there's tons of fans that really want Old Republic, but are also, I guess, probably and justifiably so, maybe a little skeptical and nervous about what this era of Lucasfilm might do with the Old Republic. But 5 years from now, we're probably seeing brand new leadership at Lucasfilm, which could be a really good thing, or it could be bad too. But there might be some fresh optimism in terms of Star Wars stories that could be told on Disney Plus. Keanu Reeves kind of brings in that, okay, Keanu is here. We have new leadership here at Lucasfilm, and we haven't really had a new Disney Plus show in a few years now. Maybe the time of that wouldn't matter maybe as much if you are showcasing, you know, something like that. Maybe that would not be as big of a problem moving forward.
yeah. I mean, this idea also came up because we know they are actually working on new series. Like,
Mhm,
I don't know how many, but I do know that they are actually working on new stuff.
mhm.
Whether
I
they are
wonder if we're
going
going to hear about any of that at Celebration or not.
right, so whether they are going to push those through into production in the next year or so, I don't know. Basically, because I do suspect they are taking a break.
Mhm.
But maybe they're not.
Sure.
Maybe they
I hope
just.
I hope they are. I hope they are.
I mean, I hope so too. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't be surprised if in March they start shooting a new series that maybe comes out like after Mando and Grogu, and
Right.
like
Mhm.
it's like the perfect time to start shooting now because then by the time we are hungry
Mhm.
again, we have new series. Like I don't know, like these things escape my understanding overall. I think like. You have to think so many years ahead, and they actually have their plans laid out. Whether they are revealing them or not, they probably do have some plans.
Mhm.
So if you're Lucasfilm and you're actually coming up with multiple new series, like whether
Mhm.
multiple is 2 or 4, I don't know, and you also have like this actor who wants to be in Star Wars, who is like a major driver of like a major star,
Mhm.
and you were almost going to cast him in a major role in a past series, but it didn't work out. But he is there.
Mhm.
Now is the time to strike. Like now is the time to actually construct a character around him. Now is
Mhm.
the time to reach out again and say, so how many John Wick films are you gonna be shooting in the next 2 years? Because we might need you.
Mhm.
Like this kind of stuff. Like I don't know. I can see this happening honestly. Whether it is this show at the end of the Old Republic, whether it is a new series, like I could see Lucasfilm saying, "Okay, didn't work out last time. Maybe let's try to
Mhm.
strike while the iron is hot, and maybe let's try to get you on this new series that we're working on." I
Okay.
don't know. What do you
Mhm.
think?
On I think it's likely. I think if something like this is getting leaked, that they were talking to him about this,
Right.
and it sounds like this wasn't just a random, maybe Keanu Reeves was gonna be in Star Wars. Like we've heard a lot. Like Keanu Reeves would be great in Star Wars. This seemed like there was a phone call made, or there was a meeting that happened at some point, or something was going on. And
Oh, you
so
mean between Lucasfilm and Keanu?
yeah, like
Yeah.
they've
Yeah, there
communicated.
was.
Like it
Yeah.
feels like there's been
Yeah, I
actual
mean,
communication
so
there.
Lucasfilm asked Lionsgate to move to work around Keanu's schedule on Ballerina so that
Mhm,
he could be available to shoot the Acolyte. So
mhm,
there were more than conversations. There was never an offer,
mhm.
but there
Right.
were conversations
So that's what I'm
with both
saying. If
Keanu
there's
and another studio.
like if there's conversations having already taken place about a show, I bet there has to be conversation that's going to continue to take place because I think that there's clearly a lot of fever for Keanu to be in Star Wars, and they are, I don't want to say desperate for some really big news that would get people really excited, but announcing that Keanu, like in celebration this,
Right.
next April, if they were to announce what their new flagship show maybe was going, they were going to try to market as their new show because right now Andor, by the time celebration hits, will be probably starting the final season of Andor,
Yeah.
and Ahsoka will be filming or shooting at that
Yeah.
time probably. So that's season two. We have not. There's nothing else planned. But if you were to say this is maybe the future that we're going in on Disney Plus, it's going to take a couple of years because we're just now getting started. But we have the actor that is going to be the face maybe of that, and Keanu Reeves were to walk out on stage, that's something that would not only break celebration stage, but that would go insane on the internet. People will be
Yeah.
talking about that for a long time, and that's sustainable. That's not something that would go away after a few months. As soon as you get a little tidbits about that, you can do one like a promo shoot, like a promo photo of Keanu but holding a lightsaber or just wearing some sort of outfit. That's big. That's something that would be
Yeah.
an instant win for Star Wars moving forward. Before the show gets started, I think that the positive vibes from that would be really beneficial in a time that they desperately need it for Disney Plus.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, I can see all of that. Honestly, I'm
Probably,
like
I mean, probably not going to happen, but
no, but I can see them trying. I can
Mhm,
not even like on celebration, but I can see them trying right now for
mhm.
that to happen. Like
Yeah.
whether it works out or not, I could see it. So
It
just
just
to
seems weird that they announce there's these like the stuff that comes out about, oh, there's these shows in development they're holding, they don't want to announce. And then it's the same week as the stuff leaks about Keanu. I'm not saying that they're like directly related to one another, but
no,
I
I
do
don't
think
think
it's,
so.
it's they're not, but it is interesting, I think, that both these things are coming out at the same time. We know that Star Wars is interested. We know that they have new series in the works, and if they've been interested before and it didn't go well with the Acolyte, we'll see about Skeleton Crew. They might really need some big news because who knows what they'll be able to share about any other films outside of Mando and Grogu by April. They might need something like this to really get fans and or get investors a big boost after celebration because I mean, April's a long ways away, but we have nothing on anything else but Mando and Grogu right now.
But yeah. So just to wrap up, let me ask you this: what would you have thought of the Acolyte if Keanu was Saul?
If Keanu was Saul,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Probably I would not
Do
have.
you regret that it
I
didn't
like
happen,
Keanu,
or
like I like Keanu Reeves a lot, but I mean, there's plenty of projects with actors I like where just because that person's in it doesn't mean it's enhancing my overall
right?
experience
But
very much. Like, yeah, I don't know if
do
that
you?
would move the needle for me because I loved Lee Jung Jae's performance as
Okay,
Saul.
so let me ask you the question another way. Do you regret that it didn't happen, or are you happy that it didn't?
I'm happy that it didn't.
Okay, me too.
Mhm,
Actually, the and maybe this would have we would have seen Keanu in a whole new light, but I do think that the character of Saul was a much deeper character than Keanu is used to
mhm,
portraying, and I
mhm,
think that Lee Jung Jae was just perfect in that character,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
I
I
do not
agree.
see like I think Keanu would have detracted from the character. Actually, I
Mhm,
think we would be seeing the actor and not the character. And I
mhm,
don't think that happened with Lee Jun Jae. Like
mhm.
I think we were seeing Saul, and I think we were seeing through him like the his emotions and all that.
I agree. I think that also, if you're gonna have someone like Keanu Reeves in Star Wars, like you want it to be a success. And with all of the other,
Right.
I want to say stuff going on with the Acolyte, with it not being the best show in the world to every all the other noise, it might have also felt like a missed opportunity there too.
I mean, you never know. Like with Keanu there, if his face is on the poster, like that probably doubles your viewership on
Right.
Disney Plus, at least on the first
Mhm.
day. Like
Mhm.
whether it drops after that,
Mhm.
probably does. But like on the first day, you're getting at least double the viewership.
Right.
And
So
I was gonna say as well that he does have one of those faces that you can actually believe is in Star Wars. So that
yeah.
if you put Leo DiCaprio in Star Wars, you don't buy that. If you put Jennifer Lawrence in Star Wars, like you don't buy that. But Keanu, you kind of do, right?
Right. No, you do. Well, I mean, we've seen him in these like I think The Matrix obviously like is like in these weird roles,
Yeah,
before, but also just the whole his whole shtick, like I think you could
yeah.
see in Star Wars for sure. So how like on a scale of, you know, I don't know, Luke destroying the Death Star, the crazy odds that that was to, you know, Jar Jar creating a catastrophe out of nothing. So like extremely likely.
Yeah.
Where on that scale would you put the likelihood of Keanu Reeves, being announced to be in a Star Wars movie, Star Wars project within by this time next year?
Next year,
Like
I
in the
think you were
next
gonna
calendar
say
year.
seeing him in the next five. The announcement for the next year, more unlikely than likely.
Mhm. Okay.
So maybe
Not seeing like not
so,
just seeing him in a project, but just like it being
I
like
don't know.
proclaimed to be one.
Yeah, but that announcement would probably be at celebration. I know I don't see it happening just yet. But
Mhm.
so let's say something like 3PO not getting in an argument with R2D2. Like
It's not gonna happen.
so probably not, but it's not impossible.
Not impossible. Okay, there's
Um,
some moments there. What if I okay, stretch it out to the next 5? Are you pretty confident about that?
3PO getting in an argument with R2D2.
Okay, okay. So the vibes are strong here. Like the vibes are strong for Keanu.
Yeah, it's not like Jar
You're
Jar
thinking
level.
he's back.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it's because it's like it's the time now to be thinking about this, but
Mhm,
it just feels right. But
mhm.
I could see him like for some reason like it clicked when I read that he was interested in Star Wars. Like I don't know if I had read that before or if that had actually like the words canon in Star Wars other than fan casting had actually like the pierced my brain before, but that worked for me. I don't know.
Right.
It just I could see that happening for sure. What about you?
I it's gonna so I am constantly in a state of we are gonna bring this person out at the next big event. Like I need it injected in my veins. Like that is what I live for. I live for watching these panels or watching and they go, let's bring someone out that's gonna surprise. Like when Daisy Ridley
Yeah,
walked on stage at the last celebration. When I tell you I was just had that video on loop on my drive to school. Like I was just like driving, I'd reach down, like play it again just so I could see it happen. Or when the celebration at 19, when Ian McDermott showed up,
yeah,
at the end. That was just it's just so cool. So like I've been preaching for so now I will add Keanu to my list to see come out for something at celebration. He will be behind uh I've said for several months that I felt like if we didn't hear about Jean Boyega being back for the Ray movie by D23, that hope would be destroyed. But because it seems like everything with that movie is now being pushed back, I am pushing my deadline back to Star Wars Celebration
yeah.
next April. And so he's number one on the list, and then number two, I'm gonna slide Keanu right there, number two. I Pedro is number three. Like I would love Pedro to come out and actually tell people that like he was on set filming or something. Like even like not saying I'm like in this movie, but like I want to see him at least say like, yeah, I was there a few weeks ago or like a few months ago I showed up and we were doing some stuff.
I mean, I don't know if he will say that, but I do think he will be there. Like,
He'll be there. I want him
well, I
to.
don't know. Did he go to celebration before?
I honestly don't. I don't know if he did. I can't remember if he was at the last one or not.
Um,
I
yeah,
remember.
no, no, no. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's coming back to me. Yes, he was not like signing autographs or like taking pictures, but he was in London. But still, it's London. It's not Japan. It was probably easier for him. I think he
Mhm.
has an apartment there, so I don't know. Maybe it's easier for him than Japan. But
Right.
at the same time, it all depends on his schedule. He
Mhm.
hopefully by the time next April comes around and Japan comes around, he will be lying on a beach because he so deserves it. Like this year has been like pretty.
No one's been following Pedro Pascal's schedule like you, though. I feel like you're exhausted just like going through his schedule.
I mean, come on. I was exhausted from my own schedule. And his is like much more intense. Like I don't know.
The bright side is he probably gets compensated a little bit better than you or I do
Yeah,
for
probably
his
does.
schedule. So he has there might be a few more perks that come with
Probably
that
does. Yeah.
schedule. Like seeing as he has probably an apartment, just chilling in LA, that might be or
Yeah.
in London. Sorry, not LA. He probably has one in LA too, but in London,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, What this is like really random, but if you had to make a prediction for if they do a celebration the next year before Mando and Grogu comes out, like that April, May, where do you think that would be held? And why will it be in my hometown here of Orlando?
It's not impossible. Like, so the thing is that I do think that on 27 they will have one in California. Like
Right.
that just makes sense, and that's the time to if knock on wood George is still around, like that's
Mhm.
time to bring him out. Like that's the 50th
Right.
and whatever. And if it's not in California, he will not be there. Like, come on,
Right.
like he's not. Like, he flew to Cannes earlier this year, but I don't think he's flying to anywhere because of Star Wars, other
Mhm.
than maybe Anaheim. Um, so having two consecutive ones in the US uh, with the pace that they're uh, having now, like feels unlikely. At the same time, it feels right to go to Orlando now.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
yet at
I
this
say that for entirely biased, selfish reasons.
no,
Um,
but, no, but it's crossed my mind many times, and I do think it's a very likely possibility. There were these rumors in London that it was going to be Orlando next
mhm.
year. It wasn't, but still, it also depends on the dates. So take for
Yes.
example that the so Mountain Grow is opening on Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
That year, imagine that they have celebration that weekend. If they
Mhm.
have celebration that weekend, I think it's gonna be in Anaheim because
Mhm.
of the whole premiere thing and stuff.
Mhm.
Like they will be busy.
Do you really think they do 3 Anaheims in a row, though?
Not three,
Like,
two.
for US locations, because,
Um,
Celebration
yeah,
in 20 was
maybe.
Anaheim, and then that would be Anaheim, and then another one, and then
I
because
mean,
I just think it's, like, really weird because, you had Anaheim, and then they were in Europe, and now we're going to Japan, and
yeah,
so I feel like the next one makes sense to come back to the States, but
yeah.
you have to have one in 27. So do you skip? But it also feels weird for them to skip a celebration year when they're returning to theaters as well, that in 26. So I feel like
No, I agree. Yeah.
they're gonna sandwich one in. And so
Uh,
I'm curious to see maybe if they go back to Europe or if they, come to the States. And if they do come to the States, like I said, feels like the other Disney location of Orlando feels like the spot.
I think it's the most likely possibility because I also don't think it will be on Memorial Day weekend like celebration. It will
Mhm.
probably be around Easter, maybe. At the same time,
2026.
or maybe it's in August, which was going to be like the original date for the 22 celebration. I don't know.
2026 is going to be my favorite year of all time. I'm going to be back in theaters for Star Wars,
Right.
wrapping up my master's degree, and being at my first Star Wars celebration right 20 minutes away from where I live. That's my I'm holding on to right now.
And
That's what
you
I'm
know what's gonna be best about that? That they're gonna push back that awful Gollum film from Warner Brothers that they have dated for 26 and will probably never happen.
there's
Hopefully,
there's no way that comes out in 2026 if
and
it's
also the
actually
third
going to happen.
season of Rings of Power. So
That would be that year because we have to wait 2 freaking years in between
yeah,
seasons of shows. How we're gonna be so old when the final season comes out. Like that's
oh yeah,
insane. That's insane.
yeah.
Like a full decade older.
Except for the elves. The elves don't get older.
Right.
Those will
They're gonna be fine. I
yeah.
I don't understand. 2.5 years in between these things is just it's just
Yeah.
wild. Well, thank you, Miguel, for hopping on this
Thank you.
evening. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know if you have any other Keanu Reeves character, uh, ideas that you would like to see the role of Keanu in the role of. Sorry, I'm losing it. It's 10:10 work week. I'm losing it. For those of you listening on Apple and Spotify, really appreciate it. Leave a little review. Make sure you subscribe to us there. We bring you a podcast every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, of course, for the Timeline Show. You can catch us every Thursday night for the Star Wars News at Live show, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, which, if I have my dates right, Miguel will be on this Thursday
Yeah,
for
should
the
be.
live when this comes out, because you're not
Yeah,
going to be on this actual Thursday, but the next Thursday, when
yeah.
after this release, you will be on.
First Thursday of September, I will probably be there.
Yes, perfect. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time for Light and Life. Remember that we are all the Republic.